Today we're going to build this modern bookshelf out of 2x4 and 2x10 material for less than $25. Let's get to it. First, I'm going to take the 2x4s and the 2x10s and cut them down to size. The 2x4s, I'm going to cut 3 45-inch pieces of 2x4, and the shelves of 2x10 are going to be cut down to 29-inch shelves. So you have 3 2x4s at 45 inches and 3 2x10s at 29 inches, and of course you can use whatever size you want to. That's just the size that fit for me. What I'm doing next is writing a 1, 2, and a 3 on each 2x4 piece, tracing them out on all 3 2x10 shelves and marking them to know which piece goes with which trace out. You're going to end up cutting just the middle shelf out, which you'll see here in a moment. I used a jigsaw. Only that last slot that I was just tracing there is the one that was a little difficult. You couldn't do it. It wasn't a square cut, so you had to take a few passes with a jigsaw to get it right. I cleaned it up with a rasp and a file, and then what I did there is glued that third 2x4 into that middle slot that I cut out, and I'm just checking to make sure that it's square. And it is. Next, I'm going to pre-drill on the back side 2 screws for each trace out on the back side of the corresponding other 2 shelves that I traced out but did not cut out with a jigsaw. And then I'm gluing here on the side, which I normally would not do, but I need to get a better camera angle for you guys. So I'm going to butt those up to each other, and then I'm going to drill in the screw from the back side, 2 screws in each 2x4, making sure that you match those 2x4s up with the number written on the shelf. And you're going to repeat that process for all 3 2x4s. And I did use 3.5-inch screws. And the project got too big for my workbench, so I ended up moving it to the floor and just laid it across some 2x6s that I had on the ground, spread out. And I forgot to pre-drill one of my cutouts, the 2x4 that I had already put in there with glue, so I'm pre-drilling it now. Make sure you do that before you glue it in. Now for the 2x4 above that one, as you'll see next, I did pre-drill that one correctly before I glued it in. Now I made sure those 2x4s were centered on that middle shelf as well. And then I attached that third 2x4 and repeated the process on the bottom. Now you can see that I filled in with wood filler along the seams for where I cut out with a jigsaw. Also, there's that piece that you can see laying down. That's 2 pieces of hardwood laminated together that I'm going to put in the center of that middle shelf. I'm going to pre-drill from the bottom and glue it down there as well. And that's going to hold a center shelf that I built that's half the size of that middle shelf, just to add a little more character and not make it look so open. Now I did, as you can see, the saw burns there. I cut that to be a little bit smaller than the 2x10. I drilled it in with 2 pocket screws on each 2x4, so a total of 4. And then I filled those in with dowels. You'll never know that they were there. Now every place where I pre-drilled, I did put dowels in. I pre-drilled the holes deep enough so that I could fit dowels in after. And then I just went back and cut them off with a flush cut saw, and I sanded everything down in the next step with 120 grit sandpaper, 150, and finally 220 grit sandpaper before I applied the finish. Now, of course, I didn't show that because sanding is extremely boring. Now, lastly, I'm going to finish it off with a coat of Watco Danish Oil Dark Walnut. You can use whatever finish you had. I just had that lying around. Now, you can see that there's a larger piece on the bottom. That's a piece of 2x12 that I had. I had to add it to it. It gave it a little more stability, and it made it look a little better. So I did make a few additions that are going to be outside the realm of what I said was included for the wood. Now, I hope you enjoyed the video. There's the final product. Please subscribe, and thanks for watching.